So we're going to start in just 1 minute. I do ask if you could please remain on mute except when you're speaking. That would be hugely helpful at our end. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 All Candidates Forum, hosted by the Port Hardy Chamber of Commerce. We are grateful to live and work on the traditional territory of the Kwajalein people, Gaelakasla. We are broadcasting today from our office on Market Street. As a nonpartisan and member-driven organization, the Port Hardy Chamber of Commerce plays an important role during elections by ensuring that issues of importance to our members are given the profile they deserve. On Saturday, October 15th, 2022, Port Hardy, along with all of British Columbia, will be electing local government representatives to municipal office. While the BC economy is performing relatively strong compared to other provinces, some sectors have still not recovered from the impacts of COVID-19, and there are concerns about what impacts a potential fall wave could have on the province's economy. It is critical that candidates are aware of the need for policies that focus on building a strong and vibrant business community. This event is being recorded for those who are unable to attend, and we will be publishing that later on this evening. My name is Elizabeth Amon Hume, and I will moderate tonight's discussion. The goal of this event is to facilitate a forum that is fair and inclusive to all of the candidates. Most importantly, we would like for this to be an evening that is informative for the voters. Please note that this event is a forum and not a debate. The spirit of this forum is to be a peaceful medium where ideas and views are shared with the public to better understand each candidate running for election. As a neutral and nonpartisan moderator, I will do my best to safeguard this forum as a marketplace for insightful information and peaceful discussion. Of course, this event would not be possible without the candidates who have generously taken time out of their day to be with us this evening. Our candidates are, for Mayor, Pat Corbett-Labatt, Athena Guy, and our candidates for Councillor, Janet Dorward, Dennis Dugas, Jamie Kimo, Fred Robertson, Marilyn Salsky, Trina Smith, John Tidbury, and Brian Texmo. Welcome, everyone. The format for this evening is as follows. We will begin with opening remarks, and each candidate will have 1 minute to make an initial statement. This will be followed by a question period where each candidate will have 45 seconds to answer each question. The order in which a candidate speaks is alphabetical by last name. Each new question will move the starting position to the next candidate alphabetically. We will start with 3 questions selected from the BC Chamber of Commerce 2022 municipal election package. The remaining time will be for questions from the public, and we will start with the questions that were submitted ahead of time. Those in attendance may submit questions via the Q&A function you will see at the bottom of your Zoom webinar screen. Questions will be read out by the moderator in the order they are received. Questions presented to the candidates that are repetitious or that discriminate based on race, religion, gender, or are rude towards the public or candidates will be instantly discarded, and I will move to the next question. To ensure fairness and equal time for all candidates, we will be strict in keeping track of time. We will have a 5-second remains warning, and when a candidate's allotted time is up, their microphone will be muted. Ashley Cadwallader from the Chamber of Commerce is our timekeeper. And here is the 5-second warning sound. Everybody hear that okay? She's been practicing all afternoon. We will have closing statements just before 8, about 10 minutes before 8. Each candidate will have 1 minute to present a closing statement and also inform the public on how they may be contacted for more information. After closing statements are complete, the forum will be considered adjourned. We will now start with opening remarks from the candidates. In 1 minute or less, please present your opening remarks, and we will start with Pat Corbett-Labatt.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending this all candidates meeting. I'm talking to you from the traditional territory of the Quaggoth people, so Gaelakesa. I've been a councillor for the District of Port Hardy for the past 8 years, and I've served on a wide variety of portfolios. My experience as a councillor and as a college instructor has stood me in good stead in understanding and learning what a council can and cannot do, and as well in advocating and lobbying for our community. I am a listener and a connector and feel very strongly about trying to overcome social injustices and helping where it's possible. I am a team player and respect other people's opinions and points of view. As a council, we may not always agree, but we work together as a team. I'm committed to working to make our town as best I can through advocating and lobby for the health and wellness of our community and its members. I am totally aware that we are a small town with big city problems without the big city resources, but that doesn't mean we cannot work together with our community partners and neighbors to make our community as best it can.
Thank you, Pat. And we'll move on now to Janet Dorward.
Oh, what about Athena?
I'm doing this alphabetical by last name.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for your time tonight as we all learn more about each of the candidates. I'm Janet Dorward. I've served 2 non-consecutive terms as councillor for the District of Port Hardy. I've used this time to continually learn about how to do this important job better and feel I am more and more effective in this role as I gain experience. I am someone who can absorb information and listen to all sides of a discussion before arriving at a decision. I am also able to let go of previously held beliefs if new information comes to light. I was born here, I grew up here, I work here, live life to the fullest here, and plan to retire here if I ever get that opportunity. The decisions we make today also affect our community tomorrow, and I'm hoping your vote will be for me to help ensure our town continues to be great well into the future.
Thank you, Janet. We'll now move on to Dennis Dugas.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I'd just like to acknowledge that we are on traditional territory of the Quaggoth people, so Gaelakesa to everyone. And again, thank you, Elizabeth and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum this evening. It has been over the last 8 years an honor and a pleasure to be working for the District of Port Hardy as a councillor and mayor. It's been a big struggle over the last 3 years, obviously, with many, many challenges, but those challenges have also brought apart opportunities for change and dealing with all the situations and issues that we have to deal with as a small rural community. But our successes are all based on a council that worked together very strongly, dedicated in their commitment to serve the community. But not only that, our staff and employees did the same as we had gone through COVID and as we move forward in the future. Thank you again for your support, and I look forward to hopefully serving you again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. We'll move on now to Athena Guy.
Hello, everyone. I'm still learning the procedures, so I'm not quite as formal, so I'll just speak as organically as possible. I was strongly encouraged by quite a few peers in the community, my peers, to run for mayor and make a difference. And I feel like I can say things from the people's voice versus just the business's voice that could be heard on both avenues, both with regards to the First Nations as well as to the non-First Nations. And as much as we have a lot of policies, statutes, acts, and regulations that we need to follow, it'd be really interesting to know exactly what they're saying and how they affect, infect, or just really have to do anything with us, how it deals with us. So I know that there's a huge learning curve, and I'm very aware of that. And I hope that if I'm chosen to represent the voice of the people, as well as the voice of the businesses, that I can give a clear understanding of what these statutes, acts, and policies are saying and how they're affecting us every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And we'll now move on to Jamie Kimo. Jamie, you're muted. Let's start over.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes. Go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry about that. My name is Jamie Kimo and I'm running for Port Hardy Council. First off, I would like to acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the Kwagala territory. My wife and I have lived and raised a family in Port Hardy since 1999. Both my son and my daughter were born in Port Hardy and graduated from Port Hardy Secondary School. My wife and I are both paramedics and have been doing so for 30 years and 20 years respectively. Prior to that, I was a supervisor at the Port Alice Pulp Mill. I've been a volunteer in various groups that included North Island Minor Hockey, the Port Hardy Lions Club for several years, a DJ and a musician, whereby I use my ability as a DJ to help raise money in many cancer-related fundraisers. I've also been a Philomi Days volunteer. The reason I'm running for council is to see Port Hardy attract businesses and to see us attract medical staff at all levels to keep our medical facilities open 24/7. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. We'll move on now to Fred Robertson.
Good evening. I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting this evening on the traditional territory of the Kwagyoth people. I would like to thank the people of Port Hardy for the privilege of serving on council for the past 8 years. And I would like to thank Eleonora and all of my family for their understanding and support, and frankly, for putting up with me. And I would like to thank you for taking your time to attend this evening. Great way to spend a Saturday evening. The more people we have actively involved in our community, the stronger we are. I believe being on council is about leadership, and I believe leadership is about listening. I hope I have achieved both on my time in council. It is through listening we will establish our priorities for the next 4 years. We live in a time of truth and reconciliation. We need to listen to the truth and to hear the truth. At times, this is not easy. Reconciliation is not some abstract concept better left to other levels of government and First Nations communities. Reconciliation is not a First Nations issue, it's a Canadian issue. Through our work locally, government to government, we can make a difference for all in our communities.
Thank you, Fred. And we'll move on now to Marilyn Salsky.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending. I'm a new face with new ideas for Port Hardy Council. Gaila Kasuk to the Kwakala people for sharing their land and culture with us. And my thanks to the Chamber and Elizabeth as host. My husband and I have moved to Port Hardy in 1999 and I've 12 years ago made the decision to retire here. Many know me in the community as my 18 years that I served working for School District 85 in the EA position to 5 superintendents and many boards of school trustees. I bring 35 years of admin and marketing experience gained in the public, private, and charitable sectors. My full bio is in the recent Gazette and Eagle papers. The district is in financially good shape. It's had good management, mayor and councillors, but we are going into a financial period and I'm running for fiscal sustained responsibility. Plan now, maintain infrastructure, build resiliency, and a vibrant community will emerge. I'm very happy Port Hardy now has a strategic plan with regular updates to monitor progress and a signed relationship agreement with the Kwakiutl First Nation. Many future initiatives will be achieved through working together. I can see Port Hardy well poised to become the island's new Tofino of
Time, please, Marilyn. Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn. We'll move on to Trina Smith, please.
Thank you, and thank you to the Port Hardy Chamber for organizing this event. It's important for our community members. Hello, my name is Trina Smith, and I am grateful to be talking with you from the unceded traditional and ancestral territory of the Kwagilth people, where I am blessed to live, work, and play. I love it here. I am passionate about my hometown, Port Hardy. I was born and raised here. My mother was born and raised here. My mother's mother was born and raised here, and her mother was born and raised here. It's a lot of history. I graduated from Port Hardy Secondary and escaped for a few years to learn French in the college in Switzerland. I was the manager of the Port Hardy and District Chamber of Commerce for a few years. I was the Economic and Community Development Coordinator for the District of Port Hardy, and I am completing my first term as councillor for the District of Port Hardy. I have the experience, understanding, and energy for the work that needs to be done to make Port Hardy more safe, more desirable to live, and if we plan and do right, more beautiful. Kayla Kessler, thank you.
Thank you, Trina. We'll move on now to John Tidbury.
To all my friends and voters, having spent my entire adult life in Port Hardy, I have a strong ties to the community. I worked for BHP Island Copper Mine for 30 years. I currently own my own business and provide employment to my locals. I raised a family of 4 and am an active member of the community. As a member of the volunteer fire department for 25 years, I've designed and built the fireworks display for Filmy Days. I am also a member of the Port Hardy Lions Club. I chaired the Vancouver Island North Tourism Advisory Committee, North Island Gazette Hamper Fund, and a member of the Hardy Bay Seniors Society. I bring a wealth of experience to the table, and I have been a town council for over 20 years, with 10 years serving on the Mount Warrington Regional District.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. We'll move on now to Brian Texmo.
Hello. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Texmo. I'd like to acknowledge that the traditional territory that we work and play on is that of the Kwagilth people, so Gaila Kessler. Everybody, I think, knows me mostly in this town. You know, I'm raised here. I've been here my entire life. I have a family here. I have 2 businesses here, electrical contracting company, photography. I donate lots of time to youth sports. I'm a huge advocate for youth sports and younger families and bringing new businesses up here to succeed. I'm trying to bring my experience to the table to council in business and youth sports and everything that I've gathered living in Port Hardy my entire life to bring to that table to help make decisions that affect all of us in a great way. I just want to say thank you to everybody that has encouraged me to run for council. I didn't quite think I was going to be doing it, but I think all the encouragement has been great. And I want to thank to the chamber for organizing this. And I look forward to answering as many questions as possible. And again, thank you guys very much.
Thank you, everyone, for your opening statements. It's much appreciated. We will now move on to the 3 questions that have been selected from the BC Chamber of Commerce 2022 municipal election package. These questions were shared in advance with the candidates. On the subject of housing, the Chamber calls on local governments to use its policy and taxation levers to make our communities more affordable, to allow businesses to be successful, and ensure citizens and workers have places to live. Housing affordability supports inclusive growth and builds communities. In many parts of British Columbia, housing is in desperately short supply. Affordable housing solutions generally fall onto the shoulders of both the provincial and municipal government bodies. The rising cost of housing and the lack of rental stock in BC is making it hard to attract and retain workers in all regions, including Port Hardy. Local governments play a central role in housing. They are responsible for zoning and permit approvals. A municipal government's process can greatly affect the economics of building housing. The longer it takes to build, the more expensive it becomes, and the less affordable it will be for citizens, especially younger people, to stay in their communities to work. What is your plan to increase the availability of more housing options for our community? Each candidate will have 45 seconds to respond, and we'll start with Janet Dorward.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Housing is a real problem in our community and throughout North America at present. As part of current council, we recently met face-to-face with various ministers, provincial ministers, and their staff on housing needs, including supportive housing, housing for healthcare workers, similar to the teacherages that used to be out at Robert Scott School, as well as the labor shortages in the construction sector in the North Island. Current council has also identified parcels of land that would be suitable for housing should the provincial government come through with some funding. So yeah, big issue.
Thank you, Janet. We'll move on now to Dennis Dugas.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, housing, huge issue in the province, on the North Island, specifically Port Hardy. And we have been working as a council and staff and our building inspection part of it to look at different ways and means of dealing with the situation. One of the things that we talked to the ministry about was the HPO, the Homeowner Protection Office and certification problem that we have in our area. And because we don't have enough of them, it's been a real shortage with regards to people that actually can do the building. We work to try to reduce the red tape as much as possible with anybody that's in the business to try to develop housing in our area. And we're working closely with them doing that. We're very supportive of it, and we will continue to do that in the future.
Thank you. We will now move on to Athena Guy.
I'm going to answer this again as organically as possible. We need to know exactly what's going on. There's a lot of people that go for permits and they are given a runaround to figure out what they need to do with regards to permits in this community. Again, it's the voice of the people. Maybe some workshops and stuff like that can be offered for our community members to figure out how they can get the permits that they need. We have a building that's on Highland Drive that's completely empty. Well, has a few people in it and it's falling apart. Clearly, there's something we can do about that. So with all the bureaucracy and the policies, maybe really understanding again what these things are saying and how it affects our community before we just turn around and just jump on ideas.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Jamie Kimo. Jamie, you're muted.
I apologize. This is quite new to me, and but I do own 2 homes in Port Hardy, but I would like to see any available land developed for a variety of housing options, such as for ownership to provide an option for long-term residency, for rentals to provide an opportunity for new workers to get a start, and for social housing to provide housing for seniors, low-income earners, and homeless people. To work in consultation and make it easier for developers seeking zoning and permit approvals, to campaign through various media platforms that Port Hardy is a great place to live, work, and play, providing a budget that will enable feature spots for television shows and promoting Port Hardy, stating that is open for land development. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on now to Fred Robertson.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Housing is critical. It's been a priority of council for the past 4 years, and we spent a lot of time trying to deal with it. Recently, we did meet at UBCM and met with the provincial government, as well as we brought some motions to UBCM to try and aid housing within Port Hardy. We need the whole range of housing that all other communities in BC need as well, in terms of affordable rental, supportive housing. We just don't have the scale needed. There are not a lot of developers coming to Port Hardy to develop. We need to look at, and we are looking at, how we can begin to become our own developers and develop that housing that we need for Port Hardy and for folks coming to Port Hardy.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Marilyn Salsky.
Yes, housing availability for our area is a great need, both for those workers that are coming up to provide goods and services, because a lot of our services are now located down island. So while I agree with that, we need some senior housing, and affordable housing is also part of my look at it. Surprisingly, in the 2021 census, we had a 5.6% drop of population. So our population was 3,902, 21 census, whereas all through the 90s and into year 2000 and up to about 2019, our population was over 4,000, 4,500, 4,300. So I think affordability is another.
Thank you, Marilyn. We'll move on now to Trina Smith.
Thank you. Yes, housing is a massive need in our community and province. Like the other counselor said, we were just at UBCM lobbying for more housing in our community, and we need a variety of housing and have been working on this issue. We need supportive housing, transitional housing, tiny homes, senior housing, rental housing, affordable housing. We now have the North Island Housing Coalition. By working together, pooling our expertise and resources, we will have success in obtaining grants to build housing, work with Housing BC on multiple projects, and make sure we have enough housing to house our community members and attract new ones.
Thank you. We'll now move on to John Tidbury.
The housing problem has been a problem here for a number of years now. There is no easy solution. We've only got one authorized contractor that can build houses in Port Hardy. The rest would have to come from out of town. And what we've been finding in projects that we've already got in the circle of council is that it's at least another 20% above the cost of a house down island. But the outlook of housing is definitely needed in this town. We've looked at all different aspects of housing, from small to large.
Thank you, John. We're going to move on now to Brian Texmo.
Hi, so housing costs in BC are no doubt high. The rise in property values has made it increasingly difficult for residents, especially young people, to purchase homes. I am one of those young people. I understand the struggles. This certainly also affects our businesses trying to attract and retain workers, because the housing costs are so high and there's no rentals available. While housing prices do not fall solely on municipal governments, the building permits, practices, and zonings do. Having extensive construction experience, I've listened and worked with both local and outside contractors. Complaints regarding our municipal regulations for zoning and building permits, fees, and processes. I plan to bring their concerns to the table and work with our current council, and even discuss the possibility, like Fred mentioned, about the District of Port Hardy being their own developers.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Pat Corbett-Labatt.
Hi, thanks. So as the other counselor said, we've been in talk with various ministers. We've been talking as well with BC Housing regarding the various types of needed housing that could get support from BC Housing. That includes supportive housing, affordable housing, senior housing, to name but a few. We do have some land. We've also been talking to other ministries about them selling their land for $1 to us to make land more available. So we're still working on that, or have been working on that. Another problem that we have, though, in running some of this housing is having nonprofit societies. We have our nonprofits in the North Island are maxed out, and we're looking at outside societies to come in.
Thank you, everyone, for that. Our next question, on the subject of mental health and addictions. The Chamber calls on local governments to support British Columbians with mental health and addictions challenges by ensuring adequate availability of wraparound services in our community. Port Hardy is facing several social challenges, such as mental health issues among some residents, addictions, and open substance use. These issues are often linked to challenges with homelessness, a lack of treatment options, and the availability of affordable housing options. This includes social housing. Mental health affects 1 in 5 people across Canada, significantly affecting business and the economy. Further, untreated or undertreated mental illness and addictions, especially pervasive within the homeless population, leads to antisocial behavior affecting public safety that negatively impacts communities in both large and small ways. From generally being an attractive destination for tourists to not being assured safe access to businesses and to the extra costs faced for increased security, repairing vandalism, or undertaking additional cleaning. The question we have is, what is your priority with respect to addressing the mental health and addiction issues we are experiencing in our community? You'll have 45 seconds and we'll start with Athena Guy.
Wow, you cannot answer that in 45 seconds. There needs to be more connection with regards to understanding that as a community, we need to come together. 1, 2, we need to address the fact that the First Nations that have very great healing techniques can be used to help heal the community. That should definitely be looked at. 3, maybe we should look at the Red Cross and updating that building. That's all I have.
Thank you. We'll move on to Jamie Kimo.
First of all, we must stop turning a blind eye to the problems facing our downtown district. Public drunkenness on a daily basis, open substance abuse, and urinating near our businesses have had a significant impact. Having worked in the emergency services field for the last 20 years, I've never seen it this bad. I would like to make this my #1 priority. This in itself is an epidemic. If the problem is not rectified now, animosity will continue to grow as seen on social media. Instead of letting it get worse and letting it escalate to the point of tent cities, I would like to see a large-scale treatment center built in Port Hardy in conjunction with the Vancouver Island Health Authority that would become a model for all of BC and positively make an impact.
Thank you, Jamie. We'll move on now to Fred Robertson.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It is a massive problem. It's an extremely complex problem. The challenges with the downtown Port Hardy area, Port Hardy, are pretty clear. And with the lack of affordable rental housing, it seems to be becoming more visible and more intense. We need to continue to work with the partners that we have been through Island Health and Mental Health and Addiction and RCMP, Salvation Army and First Nations Band. We are working together. We have brought some. We've got Safer Places, which is a trial run. There's also the Managed Alcohol Program, ICMT, the Integrated Case Management Team. And the Sobering and Assessment Center. There are some services. The problem persists. So we need to continue to work together with all of those agencies.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Marilyn Salsky.
Yes, it is a very high priority and very challenging situation. And it's been going on for quite some time in our community, but it has recently gotten worse. I know when I was at the school board office, the congregation used to be behind in the bushes. But now some of the bushes have been trimmed and it seems to come right to forefront in the streets. The new residents in town are talking about it and the tourists are talking about it, as you all well know. Solutions are going to have to be multifaceted. They're going to have to require a getting together with everyone, including the paramedics, as Jamie well knows, Island Health, Mental Health, the RCMP, and it requires day-to-day constant. It can't be just a short term. It has to be a building, a central focus, location. It just cannot continue.
Thank you, Marilyn. We're going to move on now to Trina Smith.
Thank you. Yes, this is such a complex issue we are currently facing, and we are not alone. Most communities in BC are experiencing these issues, similar issues. There isn't a perfect solution. There isn't an easy solution. There isn't a quick fix. This will require a lot of collaboration, provincially, interministerially, multi-communities, our First Nations, health authorities, all service delivery groups, your elected officials, and you. Yes, you will play a part in the trials and tribulations. You are already in a piece of the puzzle that is broken. It is up to all of us to work together. The work won't be pretty, it won't be perfect, but I am willing to roll up my sleeves and do the work to move forward together.
Thank you. We'll now move on to John Tidbury.
Okay, my feeling is that the Stink Creek is not the answer. I don't have the positive ideas where we should have this location, but Stink Creek is not the answer for sure. And it should be going back to the provincial and the federal government to bring the funds forward so we can deal with this problem. It's a huge problem in Canada, and local government just cannot deal with that because we do not have the money for those resources. There you go.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Brian Texmo.
So I'm glad this question is being asked, as I believe it's probably the biggest focal point of our town right now, and talking with locals and tourists and business owners, it's become a huge issue. I don't take this issue lightly. I see the need for enforcement. I see the need for proper solutions. This issue it's a complex one, and a lot of people are seemingly afraid to address it, but I'm not afraid to have hard conversations. I'm not afraid to talk to local leaders, enforcement, First Nations. I know they're working on their own traditional healing centers, which is amazing. But one of the biggest things I see is the lack of communication with the public of what's actually happening to actually better the solution. There's no communication telling everybody, hey, where are we at? What are we doing? I plan to bring that to the table as well.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Pat Corbett-Labatt.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And like everybody said, this is a complex and difficult issue, not only for our town, but for many other towns and cities. Port Hardy is the end of the road, basically, and this is where services are. Right now, the district is meeting with RCMP, paramedics, Island Health, and discussing the issue and how we can move forward and work together. We are also, as part of the team, is the managed alcohol program. So it's not like the council's been hiding from it. The council has been directly dealing with it and working with our partners to go forward. The council also has a plan to have a town hall in a few weeks directly to address this issue and bring forward ideas.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Janet Dorward.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, as everyone has mentioned, this is a serious issue. It's been going on for a long time. It does seem worse lately. I understand this is in part due to the eviction of several tenants in a particular apartment building. Overall, I feel there needs to be a substantial shift in the way this issue has been managed across the province and across the country, as the many solutions being tried are not solving the core problems. As part of the current council, we are working on both short-term and long-term solutions, and in particular are advocating strongly for supportive housing, so there is a safe place for everyone, and when everyone is ready, for help with their recovery.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Dennis Dugas.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that question. It's very, very important, as we all know, in our community. And I'm actually very proud that our Wellness First Committee that was formed a number of years ago has been addressing this issue with a number of collaborative people on our team. Us as the partners, the doctors, the Island Health, RCMP, Mount Washington Health Network, the service group, Salvation Army, and businesses, Indigenous Nations. We've all been working on this project, trying to find a solution, and there's not an easy solution, but we're going to continue to keep moving towards that to make it better for all of us. And homelessness is a big part of that. And so we need to address that, obviously. We're looking forward to everybody being a part of the whole solution. And we're looking forward to that open house coming up shortly. So thank you.
Thank you. And my apologies to the candidates, but I skipped over a question and kind of messed up the order a bit of answering questions. So Dennis, I apologize. You were supposed to go fast first on the last one. On the subject of taxation and economic recovery, the Chamber calls on our local government to support a growing economy by reducing the tax burden on businesses and implement programs and policies that support the private sector in recovering from the global pandemic. The global economy was hard hit by the pandemic. While some sectors in BC weathered the storm, post-pandemic challenges remain, particularly around the increased costs and the administrative burdens associated with tax increases and regulatory complexity. The Chamber has long expressed concern regarding local governments charging non-residential property owners a multiple above residential taxpayers. It's a practice that's not aligned with the consumption of municipal tax supported services. This practice affects businesses' ability to compete with other jurisdictions and remain viable. It also impacts that will only worsen as property values rise and municipal costs increase. Some sectors, notably tourism and hospitality, have not yet fully recovered from the impacts of COVID-19. Many businesses continue to feel the impact of the pandemic and need support to navigate the current environment. If elected, what tax relief policies or programs would you introduce to make Port Hardy a more tax competitive jurisdiction for businesses? And we will start this time with Dennis Dugas.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, that's a very important question. But as we all know, when we talk about taxes, first thing that comes to mind is that people don't like it. They don't like the word, obviously. Taxes is not something that everybody's happy about. But I'm very proud of our council. In the last 3-4 years now, have looked very seriously at the impacts, especially through COVID, on the impacts that it would have on our businesses and our residents and our community. And we've kept our taxes as low as possible. But when we look at that, there has to be a balance. And the balance is between service levels and taxation. And what does that mean? To be able to maintain what we have, and we know that costs are increasing significantly all the time. We have to look at that seriously. And I believe that we found that we could do that. So we're very happy.
Thank you. We'll move on now to Athena Guy.
Could you please repeat just the last part of the question?
Sure. If elected, what tax relief policies or programs would you introduce to make Port Hardy a more tax competitive jurisdiction for business?
I'm going to repeat myself with regards to, we need to know what these policies are saying. To implement a tax relief, you would have to know exactly what the other stuff's saying first. It's like a domino effect. You bring in one thing, and then what's it going to do to the other thing? People, business owners, they want to know it in layman's terms. Shoot it to them straight. We already know we're getting taxed. What are we getting taxed for and why? Once we figure that out, then we could bring other things in. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on now to Jamie Kimo.
Yes, I would like to find ways across the board for businesses to give them some breathing room while we work our way through this global pandemic. This will include abolishing non-residential property owners paying a multiple above residential taxpayers. As a local government, we must work together with businesses to help them recover and provide incentives for new businesses to ensure a stable economy. We must provide support to local businesses wherever possible as they provide jobs for individuals, in turn buying goods and services within our community. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Fred Robertson.
Thanks. I'm not 100% sure I agree with the premise of the question, especially with it as it respects to the non-residential tax. I think, and our level of taxation is not completely dissimilar from other jurisdictions in BC. We always use other comparators when we're setting rates. I think the best way that the District of Port Hardy and Council can help businesses is to create the community that people want to come to, that people want to stay, so that more people are going through the doors of businesses in Port Hardy. That's how we are going to help businesses, by creating the community that everybody wants to stay in.
Thank you. We'll move on now to Marilyn Salsky.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Robertson that we do have to create the full circle to close the full circle so we can encompass businesses to thrive and survive. The pandemic was very hard. I don't see, as a small tax base rural community, we really have the ability to cut taxes at this point anyways. I think it's something we can do to boost the local economy, make a healthy market street, attract new businesses. And then there's the question with respect to the COVID relief fund. It was 4.4 million in 2020. And except for the $234 spent on the pools.
Thank you. We now need to move on to Trina Smith.
Thank you. This year and the last two years at UBCM, we spoke with ministers on your behalf to keep the COVID tax relief going for communities and businesses. We are still in recovery. Each year, we are mindful of keeping taxation down as much as we can while maintaining service. Once the OCP, I can't wait for that to be completed, I will be excited to see what we can do for our businesses and downtown core. I'm not sure tax relief is the answer, but it is an option. We need to increase capacity, develop our business images online. Patty, Carly, and Lisa have been working with local businesses on branding and online visibility. This creates a positive image online, which benefits the community. We are a small tax base, and we need to get creative and work together.
Thank you. We'll now move on to John Tidbury.
This is one thing that this council did, and the last council before that, where we did a minimum of taxation that we could. We started out at 2.5%, and the maximum that this council has done is 4% in your tax base. It's not like some of the other areas, the regional district and the library board and things like that have gradually increased their tax levels. And that also shows up in when you get your tax bill, you'll see that we're the lowest.
Thank you. We'll move on now to Brian Texmo.
So I'll be completely honest, this is a difficult question for me to answer, just given my lack of experience with municipal taxation policies and me not having a seat on council. But I do have experience in having COVID affect my business, having to downsize. So I understand and I sympathize with others that struggled and are struggling. What my biggest priority is to see local businesses thrive, because it's our local businesses that are our backbone of our community and the ones that give the most back to our youth sports, to our seniors, to everything else. And so by bringing as many people to our town, to retain them, to keep our labor force strong and our business force strong, that's how we're going to continue to succeed and build our economy. Taxation, as far as I know, is quite fair, actually.
Thank you. We'll move on now to Pat Corbett-Labatt.
Thanks. And like others, the taxation with the council, we've tried to keep it as low as possible for everyone. What we've done with some of the COVID relief funds is hired our ECDEV officer, which is Patty and Carly, who Councillor Smith referred to, and their report should be coming out fairly soon. When I talk to different businesses, it's not the taxes that they're talking about, it's they can't find employees to come and work in their business. So if we can get more people to move here, our taxes are low. And so people should be here and people should be working. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on now to Janet Dorward.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, I too don't think the solution hit there is tax breaks for business, but I am a big supporter of economic activity in our region, and good jobs are key to a successful and balanced community. My employment as a commercial insurance broker provides for good connection to hear the challenges faced by many businesses. And I would support our businesses in advocating for fair changes that they see as needed in order to be successful. But lowering the taxes is pretty tough.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to the public questions. I did have quite a few questions submitted ahead of time, and I think some of them are quite repetitious, and we've already touched on a couple of the issues. So what I would like to do is submit some of the specific questions that came around the use of Stink Creek Park, the downtown core, health and safety, the public intoxication. It's a large issue. Many people have brought it up, and I would like to submit those questions directly to the candidates so they can reply by email. Then we can post that to the community in the interest of time. So the first public question I have is, why is our pool still closed? And this is a huge issue for our community. So if re-elected or elected, what are your plans for our pool? And we'll start with Jamie Kimo. Oh, you're muted, Jamie. Sorry. I was looking for him on the.
At this point, I don't know why our pool is still closed. I would like to see it open. It attracts families to our community. It could be a center point such as like the arena and the civic center. And I believe it's quite a high priority that we get this done. I've been told that it's going to be done, but I wasn't given a time frame. So I don't know at this point.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Fred Robertson.
Thanks. The pool's not open because it doesn't work at the moment. We are in the process of fixing that. There were we tried to replace the building. That didn't work particularly well, and the cost of construction skyrocketed. Right now, we are in the process of getting bids to get a liner for the pool and replace the internal functions of the pool. We will do it. This council is committed to doing it. In terms of a time frame, I am hoping early next year, but it will happen. It's just a matter of having the dedication and the will to do it. And this council has that dedication and the will to open the pool again.
Thank you. We'll move on now to Marilyn Salsky.
Well, I agree the pool does need to open just for families and for seniors. It is a focal point in the community. And it's infrastructure that the district has that needs to be maintained, which is obviously happening. It's just time delayed. And so, yes, it will open, I believe, sometime in 23, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to Trina Smith.
Thank you. Yes, when I moved back to community 5 years ago, I was so excited for a brand new pool. I couldn't wait, a lazy river ride, this great building. And I got on council and I was super excited, and we had the money, $12 million, and inflation and the cost of construction shooted that up to 18 million. We had to find 6 million and went to the feds, tried to get that extra. So we have municipal funding, provincial funding. Now we need federal funding. So we went for that. Answer is no. Deflated again. What do? We need a pool. So here's where we are. We're trying to repair our pool. And I guarantee you that no matter what, even with inflation, we are going to get water in that pool for you and eventually work on a new one.
Thank you. We'll move on now to John Tidbury.
The pool will be, I would say, open within a year. The biggest, as time goes on right now, we're buying parts as so we're not getting inflation on top of inflation. And that's where we're sitting right now. But the pool will be open within just over a year.
Thank you. Brian Texmo.
So it's refreshing to hear other counselors mention that they have a plan in place. I'm not completely aware. I'd love to get up to speed with what's going on. I can speak that I know how difficult it is to obtain parts, and they're getting more expensive as a contractor. I'm always dealing with these issues. It's becoming so hard to get things, and they're jumping up in price. So it just inflates your budget, and there's just no way. But I'd like to get on council and find out how I can offer my services and construction background to alleviate any of these issues and maybe offer some smooth solutions to future going forward to get our pool going for our community, as it's a huge attraction for people out of town to have some sort of civic recreation for families. And that's what we're aiming for, to retain people.
Thank you. Oh, Pat Corbett-Labatt.
So many of you know that the pool has been a high priority for me ever since I got onto council, and continues to be a high priority. Our council now, and I'm sure whoever's on council next term, will make sure it happens. Things have been ordered, and we're looking at a soft opening, hopefully early 2023, but as Councillor Tidbury said, next year. And we're committed to it.
Thank you. Athena Guy.
I'm going to speak from the public side of the people I've spoken to in the community. It'd be interesting to know what the voting records have been with regards to any decisions made on the pool within the past 5 to 7 years on why the pool is in the condition that it's in. It would be also interesting to see what the financial situation of the pool really was within the past 5 to 7 years, and why it needs to be closed down every summer. And it would be even more interesting, again, to know where we're at financially. Why isn't there some type of a fund, contingency fund set aside for that, for longevity of upkeeping the pool? And when we go to build something new and the money doesn't get found, what happens with the money we did have?
Thank you. Janet Dorward.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, as other current council has mentioned, the pool reopening is a high priority. I believe anyone that's elected will continue on and make sure that it happens. The price keeps going up. The availability of contractors and parts keep going up. It's a struggle. It's not unique to Port Hardy. Once again, as for all the financial records and the studies, they're all public and available upon request, I believe, from the municipal hall.
Thank you. Dennis Dugas.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you for the question. Yes, the pool, very, very important for our community, high priority, obviously. But obviously we do know through COVID, especially, it causes some delays with regards to getting our engineers to get everything in place, and then dealing with the contractors and other people that are putting information together. Retention and attraction, a major issue with regards to any community, and that pool is a big part of that. So we are looking forward to moving forward with the pool and getting it completed. As Councillor Corbett-Labatt mentioned, or hopefully early next 2023, but that may not be the case, but it'll be open next year for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question from the community. The rise in the popularity of e-bikes, cycling, and other sustainable forms of active transportation has been noticeable in our community over recent years. As an avid cyclist for both commuting and recreation, I believe our community has a great opportunity to expand our active transportation infrastructure. I believe that a priority should be to connect the Harbourfront Pathway Quatsi trails with a dedicated transportation path that parallels the highway and Bing Road so that the two population centers in our community can be connected and accessed safely using active transportation. Would the candidates approve of adopting active transportation infrastructure plans such as this into our official community plan in order to seek funding from the provincial government under the Active Transportation Infrastructure Grants Program? And we'll start with Fred Robertson.
Thanks. I missed the part, sorry, about which trail he wanted to, the Quatsi Trail. But in terms of the overall question, yes, in fact, we have completed recently an active transportation study. There are recommendations that have flowed from that study. Some of them have begun to be implemented, and absolutely, it's a good idea, it's a good question about taking that active transportation study that we did complete and blending it into the official community plan, which is in the process of being completed. So yes, absolutely. And joining up the trails and working on the trails in here in the town, in the community is essential, and it is a priority of council.
Thank you. Marilyn Salsky.
Well, I feel something that certainly makes sense. We have the opportunity and the land and everything's there to go do it. It's just there is a cost, and I guess it has to be built into a plan. So I don't think it'll be immediate with everything else going on. But yes, I think, even looking at Port McNeill, where they've done the trail out, it's a walk trail around for their community. It's been great. So I think Port Hardy should complete at some point, but I just don't know when. Thank you.
Thank you. Trina Smith.
Yeah, as Councillor Robertson said, we do have just completed an active transportation plan. So we do have that, a lot of recommendations. Definitely we want to have a healthy community, that's walkable, bikeable, for sure, without a doubt. Even working on wayfinding signs in our Houston trails, so people can actually enjoy them and not get lost. We're very fortunate to have a planner on staff as well. So once we get our official community plan done, I'm very excited to see what we can do in putting that blueprint together for our community.
Thank you. John Tidbury.
The study was also done in our last community plan, and that's still on record. I think it will be enhanced in the new community plan that's coming forward. And basically, it's a state of where do we find the money?
Thank you. Brian Texmo.
So recreation is going to be a huge priority of mine. I'm big on sports and recreation, and I think this is a great question. And so many people would love to be able to cycle from Port Hardy out to the beach and not have to go along Bing Road, as it's quite scary for many people. With reference to Mr. Tidbury mentioning where the money comes from, he is right. There has to be money for it, but that's where I'd like to come into play and offer, hard work and dedication to dig into some grants and see what we can find if there's any funding available, because I know certainly there's got to be some grants available for recreation, and I'd love to dig in and see what I can find to help make something like that happen, because I think it's a wonderful idea.
Thank you. Pat Corbett-Labatt.
Thank you. Great question. So part of our active community, active transportation plan looked at biking as well as walking and making our community as healthy as possible. So because we've got this plan made, now we can go forward and look at getting grants. We applied for a grant to put in a sidewalk to make it more safer in town. So the next step could be going for a bike path. So yes, I'm totally in favor of it.
Thank you. Athena Guy.
How long will the plan take? I think that's where people are at, considering the fact that we've had COVID and we have tax increases and we have housing inflation. A lot of people have to use their bikes to get to and from work. So the question would be, how long do we have to wait? How long we have to wait for the pool? How long we have to wait for the road? How long do we have to wait?
Thank you. Janet Dorward.
Thank you, and it is a good question. In my non-council volunteer life, I actually is advocating for a trail to connect the beach to town. And this council was supportive of the project, and it has recently been resurrected to put forward. So there's a possibility of some connection in the future. It's not along Bing Road, it would be a shorter route. But I think it would solve the question you're looking for. So hopefully we can find support all around to make that happen.
Thank you. Dennis Dugas.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Great question again. Yes, connecting certain areas of our community in different ways, not just by using vehicle, but by walking or cycling is a great option. I'm totally in support of that. And as Councillor Dorward had already mentioned, the Rotary Club basically had put a proposal together, and we're very supportive of that. And we will be working in conjunction with other groups to hopefully make that happen in the next year. So that's exciting. And as far as our active transportation plan goes, we're very supportive of carrying on with those obligations. And yeah, there is a cost, and we have to look at that, and we have to also identify our priorities with regards to where we spend our money. So thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Kimo. Unmute, please.
Yes, I'm totally in favor of a trail that would connect the town out to the beach. I just bought myself an electric bike, and I would love to utilize it more. And so yes, I'm all in favor of all types of recreation within the town.
Thank you. We're going to ask one more public question. I do need to let you know, and to let all of our viewers know, that there's quite a few questions that have come through. Very engaged community, and they're all seeking information from their candidates. So we will be putting together a paper that we will send out to you for all of the questions that did not get asked this evening. I wish we had more time to do that, but I think this last question here will sum up for us, and then we could move on to our closing statements. So what is the one project or initiative you think Port Hardy needs the most, and how will you go about implementing it? And we'll start with Marilyn Salsky. Marilyn, you need to unmute.
Oh, sorry. One project needed the most. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. I can say that the District of Port Hardy has a great website. So for information that people are looking for, that certainly is working much better than ever before. Technology's moved on. Outdoors, likely some type of skate park, maybe a bit more than enhanced than what is available right now. I can't really think of anything else. We've got lots of sports going on. I'd have to think about that a bit longer and hear what other councillors sort of have to chime in and see what they've seen. Thank you.
Thank you. Trina Smith.
Yes, thank you. Hard to pick just one, but mine that my heart is into is the OCP, so the Official Community Plan. That's our guide to creating a better community. It's our blueprint. It's how we have the vision in what we want to see. And it requires input from our community members. COVID has put a big roadblock into that community engagement, and it wasn't as big. Like when it's in person, I just find it's different, but I'm really excited. We have a lot of information. We're compiling it right now. And when we get that all together, it will be more concise. Right now, it's a big giant Bible. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's pretty hard to read. And it will help shape our bylaws in the community. Hard to sum up in 45 seconds on the spot.
Thank you. John Tidbury.
This is pretty big. I would say you could start with the pool, you could start with a doctor's shortage, you could, any medical field is very important that needs to be in town. Medical expenses going down island, would like to make it more local. That it goes on and on and on. There isn't just one important thing for Port Hardy.
Thank you. Brian Texmo.
So as others have stated, this is kind of a tough one because there's so many big issues we need to talk about. Obviously the pool, the open substance abuse, but if we're talking about just a project, maybe recreational wise, one thing that I've always wished was still around were the lights at the baseball field, because having that around allows us to bring many teams from down island to have tournaments. When you bring teams from down island, you fill up all our accommodations, all our stores in town see the business, everyone prospers from it. So something like that is something that I really believe in, and a project of mine that I'm definitely going to have at my heart if I do get on council. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Corbett Labatt.
Oh, wow. I've been thinking all sorts of different projects that I want to have, right from low to high. But I think my biggest wish and priority would be pushing for supportive housing for the people that are most vulnerable in our community. And it's a huge wish. I know it's a huge wish, but it's something we've been lobbying for, and I will continue to lobby for and see if BC Housing can come on board and really help us out and get that to happen.
Thank you. Janet Dorward.
Thank you. Our pool is already underway. It's going to happen. So we're not including that. The next thing that came to my mind was the supportive housing. We really need that for our vulnerable population that is becoming a worsening problem in our downtown area. And not just a worsening problem for all of us, but for them. They are people too, and they've had really big challenges in their life and they need some help. So that would be good. I'd also love to see a new mine. Wouldn't that be great? Make a little boom in Port Hardy again. I mean, that's not exactly within our purview, but there's lots of things I'd love to see for Port Hardy.
Thank you. Dennis Dugas.
Thank you for the question. I think when I look at what we've already been working for with the District of Port Hardy is our strategic plan, which is made up of 4 pillars: social, economic, culture, and environment. And I think when we talk about the social, we're talking about housing affordable for seniors. Like economic attraction and retention, we've already talked about that. And then for culture, we're talking about youth and seniors, support and housing for them. And also with the environment, we talk about our green community to do more with regards to green. And I think that those are the pillars that we have to focus on, and they tie all in with our community plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Athena Guy.
The question you asked had to do with what program? Was that the question?
The question that was asked is, what is one project or initiative you think Port Hardy needs the most, and how would you implement it?
The project and the initiative is the lack of disconnect between the local municipal government and our community members. They don't know what you guys are saying. They don't know what you guys are talking about, even though when they go on the website, it's not written in layman's terms. There's no relationship between the community members and the municipal government. I think that would be a good program to have.
Thank you. Fred Robertson.
Thanks. I'm going to sort of split the question a little bit. In terms of bricks and mortar project, I think everybody's agreed that the pool is going to happen soon, but we need to continue to focus on it. In terms of priorities versus projects, I see priorities being the downtown issue and as others have said, supportive housing and dealing with mental health and addiction, as well as healthcare. I appreciate Councillor Dorward's thought about the mine, and should we be fortunate to see a mine happen in our region, that it would be good to bring it within our tax structure the way that the former mine was also part of Port Hardy's tax structure.
Thank you. Jamie Kimo.
Yes, it's basically a two-part question. I think it's one of the priorities, I believe, would be to have a plan in place where we can attract all levels of medical personnel, especially doctors, and follow the community plan. And also different projects like in recreation. I would like to see a lacrosse box built at some point, not just for lacrosse, but for ball hockey as well. It could be an alternative sport other than soccer or hockey for our youths.
Thank you. Just one moment. So thank you, everyone. Our question time is up. There's still many more questions, and I really appreciate the answers that you've given, and I'm sure our audience appreciates it too. The amount of time being compressed is sometimes not the best. So thank you all for making this work. So our candidates will now have the opportunity to present a closing statement and indicate where the public may contact you if they have further questions. So if in 1 minute or less, if you could please present your closing statement, and we'll start with Trina Smith.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth, Sandra, and Ashley and the Port Hardy Chamber for facilitating tonight. Thank you very much for all of you for taking out time on your weekend to get to know your candidates. Thank you for caring about your vote and community. And this wasn't a lot of time and it wasn't in person, so we can't mingle after. So if you have any further questions at all for me, I invite you to get in touch with me at vote.for.trina@gmail.com, or you can text me or call me at 778-257-2846. Gayla Kasla, merci, and thank you.
Thank you. John Tidbury.
I'd like to pledge to assist with all council and residents to find the best solution made for the Port Hardy people, a solution that I think can be resolved. I intend to be at all committees, council, and other meetings required of a Port Hardy councillor. Port Hardy is important to me, and I believe in the community. On October the 15th, please vote for John Tidbury for councillor. And I want to be able to continue the work in this community that I love, Port Hardy. And my phone number is 250-902-7218. I'm looking forward to your call.
Thank you. Brian Texmo.
I'm for Port Hardy to grow and prosper. Having a competent and experienced council and mayor is extremely important to Port Hardy's future, and its success definitely rests a lot in their hands. Having multiple businesses and raising a family in Port Hardy, I'm tied to this town. I'm heavily invested. I love this town. I'm not going anywhere, and I want to see it succeed. People who know me know I put 110% in anything I do. The seat of council is no different. It's going to get all my attention. It's a huge responsibility. I know that, but learning is where I thrive, and I plan to do so. With me, you're going to get everything, no empty promises. I plan to address the substance abuse with open communication, support our economy through offering an attractive family-oriented community with amenities available, and heavily advocate for youth sports. And you can reach me at btforcouncil@gmail.com. And please feel free to send me anything, any emails regarding any issues you have. I look forward to responding and having conversations with you guys about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Corbett-Labatt.
Hi, thanks very much for putting on this all candidates meeting. So my experience as a councillor has provided a wealth of understanding regarding municipal governance plus council teamwork and it's prepared me to take on the challenges and responsibilities as your mayor. I listen and am a logical thinking, dedicated person who follows through on my commitments. I believe in positive leadership to represent our community members' interests, and also believe that elected leaders will set aside personal agendas and engage in meaningful, respectful, and productive dialogue on issues that impact the quality of life of all our community members. I hope I can count on your vote. If you'd like to contact me, I'm on Facebook as Pat Corbett Labatt for Port Hardy, or you can call and text me on my cell 250-230-6488, or my Gmail account, corbettlabatt@gmail.com. I am Pat Corbett Labatt, and I am running for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Janet Dorward.
Thank you. I'd like to close with a few of my council successes, recent ones. I've served on several committees in this past term, and I'm most proud of the work I've been part of on the Parks and Recreation Committee in helping create a vibrant Port Hardy Recreation Department. I think their programming is getting better and better each season, and I keep hearing that from the community. So very proud of the work going on with that committee. As part of the Operations Committee, I was also part of requesting that pedestrian safety improvements be made along Hardy Bay Road, and an asphalt shoulder has just been added in the last month. As for who I am, I wanted an honest opinion of what qualities I can bring back to the council table. And because children are typically so brutally honest, today I asked a 7-year-old what qualities I have that would be of value at the council table. And she said, I'm smart, I'm strong, and I'm hardworking. I'd say she knows me well. If these qualities are some that you value in an elected official, I hope I will be one of your selections for councillor in this upcoming election. Gayla Kessler from the traditional territory of the Kwagilth people. And you can call me at 250-949-1080 if you want to talk more. Thanks.
Thank you. Dennis Dugas.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you for having this forum this evening. Very much appreciated. As a resident in the District of Port Hardy for a number of years, over 50 now, I'm very, very proud to say that I'm very, very happy to be a participant of council for the last 8 years. And I really look forward to the opportunity of serving our community for the next 4 years. And I would like to also thank all of those that have put their names on the ballot to be elected for our council and mayor. It's a big commitment, and I'm very proud of you for doing that. You can get me at, my phone number is 250-902-9446, or you can email at my Gmail account at D2, that's D, small d number 2, porthardy@gmail.com. So thank you very much, and thank you for everybody being involved with this process to sign. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Athena Guy.
I am reachable at athenaguy2022@gmail.com. That's ATHENAGUY 2022@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook at Athena _Mayor Guy. My closing remarks would be, from what I've communicated with in the community, there's definitely a divide. People are ready for change, and it has to be different, something that's never been there before. And informing the public and educating them on what these policies, statutes, acts, and tax movements say is one of the most important things. There's no relationship between the municipal government and the local businesses per se, as well as the individuals in our community. And their voices need to be heard. It's the people. It's the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Kimo.
Thank you to the Port Hardy Chamber for providing this platform. Also to the people tuning in via Zoom. It shows me how much people care about their community. And last, to members of the previous council, some of which are running again in this election, thank you for the hard work you have done over the previous term. I'm very proud of our community and how it continues to grow. I would like to be involved in seeing our community continue to grow and prosper. This is one of the reasons I am running for town council. Should you wish to speak to me further about these issues, that you would like to see addressed, you can contact me on Facebook under Jamie Chemo, or my email address, chemo@telus.net, or by phone 250-230-2750. And I wish all the best to everyone running.
Thank you. Fred Robertson.
Thanks. I would like to thank everybody for attending tonight and echo Dennis's comments of thanking everybody for putting their names forward to run for council. I think the last 4 years have been a challenge for everyone in this country. Certainly people in Port Hardy. I believe our council was worked respectfully and worked effectively, and we did our very best to listen to everyone's comments and what everyone had to say. I would like to be able to have the opportunity to continue that into the next council. I can be reached at fred.robertson.27@gmail.com or 250-949-0499. Thank you.
Thank you. And Marilyn Salsky.
Well, thank you to everyone in the community attending tonight, and thank you to the mayor and outgoing council for the term that you've put in. You served us well. You've put many things forward as a strategic plan and other documents that weren't in place before. I'd be honored to be elected to support the community at the next term, for the next 4-year term. I will work to ensure the social needs of our community are met, to market Port Hardy's natural resources and First Nations culture outside our community to increase tourism revenues and be mindful of budgets. And I always commit to holding the community's best interest at the heart of every decision I make. So thank you once again. It's been a real pleasure to be a part of this. And if anyone has any questions for me, you can reach me via email at salsky4phcouncil@gmail.com. And my home phone is 250-949-7849. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So that concludes the 2022 All Candidates Forum. As I did say earlier, there's a lot more to talk about, and we will be pulling together that information and making sure we pass it on to all of the candidates for a reply. On behalf of the Port Hardy Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank the candidates and you, the audience, for making tonight an informative evening. I wish all the candidates the very best with the rest of their campaign. And thanks to all of you who are committed to keeping Port Hardy a great place to live. I now call upon the forum to be adjourned. Hala Kesla, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth and the chamber. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thanks, everybody.
Gayla Kessler, thank you for coming.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you.